So if you're new to my channel, you may not know that I recorded a number of podcasts with Herms the Translator, and we went through the entire series of Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z, and all the movies. And I've been uploading these little by little, but I haven't put one up in a while. This is the newest one in that series. If you're new to the channel, I'm going to leave a link to the playlist down below so you can check out all the other podcasts that we did covering the entire series. Now we're in the middle of the Buu arc as we talk about Buu versus Gotenks, a little bit of Vegito and that whole arc, and kind of give our opinions on the anime versus the manga, what we liked, what we didn't like, and it's a fun time either way. Lots of in-depth discussions. But anyways, without any further ado, we're going to pick it back up where we left off last time, discussing Gotenks and Majin Buu. So moving forward now, we have Gotenks versus Buu. Now, I don't really like... I'll be honest, man. Like, as a kid, I didn't like this fight. When I watched it again recently, I thought that it was actually better than I remembered. But the last, like, the tail end of it with, you know, Gotenks, SS3 and the Boo Boo volleyball and all that, I thought that was a little bit of a step down. And I'm not the only one. A lot of fans I've talked to they don't like this fight. Do you think the reason is because it's too slapstick and too silly? I mean, I thought... The thing about me, like my opinion, is that I thought the fight was very slapsticky, but that's not what bothered me. I just thought that it took too long to get to the punchline. Like this part of the series, I think, drags on like really badly, especially in the anime version. So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it drags on too much? Do you like the manga version more?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I mean, I think across the board with the anime adaptation of Dragon Ball, it's the constant problem with the adaptation is that they typically drag things out more than they probably should. And yeah, I think the manga version has a snappier pace, which makes it funnier. And this is entirely a funny fight. And yeah, I think like Toriyama did say, like this was the first fight he was able to do the way he wanted to it, like fully do it the way he wanted to in a long time. And I think it does show, you know, it's all his gag root kind of stuff. And I mean, if you like that, and I'm someone who does, I really like Dr. Slump and Toriyama's funny, more gag style.
Yeah.
If you like that, then this is a good fight. If you don't, then yeah, if that's not your cup of tea, then you're probably not gonna like this fight. Although either way, I do have to concede that it is kind of like on its own. You know, if you just read those chapters or watch this episode, it's a great fight, in my opinion. But in the greater scheme of the Buu arc, it's like it is by the end of the Buu arc, this fight has like no impact on anything. It's you know, it's been forgotten. Even Gotenks completely left out of the actual final fight that we get. It's like, you know, it's just kind of this weird detour that they spend all this time in the arc, you know, Goku teaching the fusion dance and them practicing the fusion dance and them training and then this whole fight and, you know, his SS3 transformation, and then they defuse at the last moment, and then later on they get absorbed, and then it's like, what was the point of Gotenks in the grand scheme of things?
No, and that's a big point too. And actually, to your point, I wanted to ask you a follow up with that. Do you think that because it's so deep into the series, we're now in the Buu arc, the final arc of the manga, you know, the last arc of the anime DBZ? Do you think that maybe the fact that it was too silly telegraphed it to those who have never seen it before that it wasn't going to be the last fight? Because you would think the final fight would be this big epic showdown. Do you think that because it went back to being really, really silly, that fans, especially, I mean, in North America for sure, but even in other countries, do you think they kind of knew, like, okay, this can't be the last fight? Plus, they've also got Gohan in the background getting his power unlocked by the Elder Kai, which I think also telegraphed to the audience that there's something else coming.
Well, yeah, it's pretty obvious that they're not going to just have Gohan be getting powered up for no reason. Although I guess in the end he was powered up for no reason, but still, at least he actually got to fight for a little bit. So yeah, it's kind of, you can kind of tell, like if you've been following the series for this long, you can kind of tell that this isn't going to pan out with Gotenks.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind, you know, I like it. I don't mind it so much here, but I don't like the fact that this has become the default way of handling fused characters, is just to have them be, oh, we're really powerful now, we're now or finish you off, and then they defuse at conveniently the last moment, so that the story can keep going. You know, it's like that's what they use with Gogeta and GT, and
Vegito
now with
Super.
Vegito, and yeah, it's the same pattern every time, and it's like there's got to be something else we could do with fused characters.
It's like they're nerfing the fusion. I almost feel like movie 12 was the best use of fusion in many ways, because you see Gogeta just destroy this Janemba guy.
Yeah, it doesn't waste any time.
Right? Just goes in there and just batters him. Now, I wanted to also, I'm going to lay a big question on you, because this has been a topic of discussion for years, and I think you're one of the more qualified guys to talk to about this, because you're so familiar with Toriyama's work, not just Dragon Ball, but also Slump, as well as the interviews. It really comes off to me, and I've read this part of the manga a few times and seen the anime many times. It really comes off like Toriyama, because he was writing this weekly, and it was a weekly manga, and he's a discovery writer, that he's really, I'm not gonna say he's burnt out, because that's we'd have no way of really knowing that, even though he might have been. But I think he was having trouble trying to figure out how to end this arc. I think he didn't know how to end this arc. Does that make sense? Like, it's almost like he had these ideas in his head of how he's going to beat Buu, but he didn't really know which one to pick from.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's true. And I think, well, to a certain extent, I think that's always been true with every story arc. But I think the big difference, most likely, with the Buu arc is that he's got a different editor than he was working under for the rest of the series. And I think we probably talked about this at other times, but I mean, the quick rundown: he had Toriyama, who was his first editor for all of Dr. Slump, and then the start of Dragon Ball up until the end of the 23rd tournament. So essentially, right when the changeover to the Z era started, he changed to a new editor, Kondo Yu, who was editor for the Saiyan arc, the Frieza arc, and then the first portion of the Android Cell arc up until when Cell goes perfect. And then for the Cell games to the Buu arc, the final editor was Huyuto Takeda, who also, according to rumor, was the inspiration for Fat Buu.
Because he was heavy, but like you said when we recorded our last one, fat in Japan is like regular for America, right? I think you said something like that. Like, somebody overweight in Japan is like not considered overweight here.
Yeah, like he gives his Toriyama in one of his weekly chapter comments that he did in each issue of Jump as it was coming out, as Dragon Ball is running. He actually says like, "Oh, I met my new editor for the first time," and he gives the actual weight, which I don't remember now, but it's like something that would not be considered ridiculously obese by American standards. Anyway, so in contrast to his first two editors, Toriyama has said in interviews that Takeda, his last editor, was comparatively lenient. And I mean, that's not to say that he would let Toriyama do literally whatever he wanted, but it does seem like he was less, he wasn't very strict in rejecting ideas the way Toriyama was kind of infamous for doing.
Yeah, Toriyama was infamous for, yeah.
Yeah, that was his catchphrase, rejected, rejected.
Yeah.
And so it's hard not to consider that and think that that's probably has an effect on the Buu arc and the way it does seem to just kind of go all over the place. And it's almost like a choose your own adventure story that's been rewritten so that all of the possible endings actually do happen one after the other.
Yeah, it's like Gotenks could have killed Buu. Like, realistically speaking, he could have. Gohan, certainly. Dragon Ball Z episode 263, you gave it a 4 out of 5. Second half full of solid ass kicking is what you said, and that's pretty much what it was. And then Vegito could have killed Buu. And then we have the final fight. So you've got like 3 different, and then you have Goku saying, "Oh, I could have beat him." So you have like 4 or 5 different scenarios here. And even before that, you've got like Mr. Satan sort of becoming Goku or Buu's friend, turning him good. So it's almost like what we have here is like we have, like you said, we have Toriyama constantly teasing what could be the end, and then changing his mind and saying, "Nope, that's not the end. We got more coming." And I think it works. I think it works for a couple of times, but I think by the time we got to like the very end, it did get kind of annoying. I mean, there is that one joke where Goku tells Buu at the end of the series, he's like, you transform so many times it kind of got annoying. And it's almost like the series is being self-aware. Like they're saying, "Yeah, we get it. We dragged this on for a long time." Did you see it as that?
Yeah, it's almost, if you want to get very like in kind of pseudo deep about it, you could almost say like the course of the arc mirrors the progress of the series as a whole, like where it starts out very silly and then gets darker, and then at the end it's kind of a mixture of silly and dark stuff with Kid Buu.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you a Gohan fan? Like, I've never really asked you about like characters that you're very fond of? I've never really asked that to you. And in our community we have the Gohan fans, the Goku fans, the Vegeta fans. I'm a Champa fan. Are you a Gohan fan? Like, what characters in the entire series do you find yourself, I guess, gravitating towards, entertained by? Do you have any favorites?
Yeah, well, let's see. So Gohan's not my favorite character, but if we were ranking him, like I'd put Gohan ahead of Vegeta personally,
Oh
but
boy.
but behind Goku.
So it would be Goku,
So
Gohan, Vegeta.
yeah, just as far as characters I enjoy.
Now, how do you feel
Although
about? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. Although maybe these days Vegeta and Gohan would be more equal, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
How do you feel about Beerus? Because, Kaiser Neko brought up some very, very good points about Beerus recently, which I completely agree with him on. Fun character, but I feel like him becoming a member of the main cast has sort of taken away some drama. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's like you don't really believe that he's actually going to destroy them anymore.
And not to mention, he's always there. So, like, during
Yeah.
Resurrection F, it's like, well, he's going to save them. And during, we saw him kill, Dr. Mashirito. And, we see him always, like, he's always there as, I guess, backup. And we saw him Hakai, Zamasu. So it's just one of those things where he's so strong. And it's like the drama's gone, sort of. But back to the Buu arc, okay? So, you said here, and one thing I agree with you on completely is you said that by episode 266, Gohan versus Buu's getting very stale. Dude, that fight, like, dragged. Like, it was so, like, annoying. And I wanted to also ask you about your thoughts on Ultimate Gohan. We've recently seen in Dragon Ball Super that they've more thoroughly explained Ultimate Gohan, which is a little bit of a... It's not exactly what was said in the original manga. Are you happy with Super's new explanation of Ultimate Gohan, how it's actually a, quote, power-up or form? Or would you prefer just the fact that he has his base power unlocked? Or do you not give a shit?
Well, it's like it's not even explained that much in the original manga or the anime. But the idea. It almost seems like the joke is that you get SS3, which is like in the name, it's like, oh, this is the super version of the super version of a super version of the character.
Yeah.
As transformed as you could possibly be. And then on top of that, you get fusion. So like with Gotenks, you stick two characters together and then have them transform more or less 3 times to get to this like the most beefed, maxed out version of that character you can possibly imagine. And then in contrast, you have Gohan, who gets powered up so that it doesn't have to do any of that at all and can just be stronger than Gotenks without even, going even a regular Super Saiyan form. So that seems to be not a joke, but just the theme. Like as they say, it's like transformation isn't necessarily a good thing in and of itself. Like this is a better way to do things than just having to transform all the time. So yeah, it's like a it does seem like it's presented as a non-transformation.
Now, Dragon Ball Z episode 269. I was this is probably going to be the one that you and I are going to disagree with probably more than anything. 269, you said can and should be skipped 1.75 out of 5. Now, for those out at home who don't know what we're talking about, this is Vegito versus Buu. Vegito in base before he transforms at the end of the episode. Now, in the manga, this portion of the fight never happened. He immediately went into Super Saiyan. He immediately transformed, and then they started fighting. What bothered you so much about this? 1.75 is mad low.
Yeah, and I guess should I maybe like break down like how these ratings are kind of supposed to work?
Whatever you like. I thought they already knew by now.
It's kind of, it's sort of self-explanatory, but so it's numbers out of 5. It's kind of, and how I did, I started with kind of a vague idea of how it would work, but it kind of evolved, and so over time, like my approach of rating episodes, but essentially what it comes down to is, okay, so if it's from 4 to 5, then that's a great episode. If it's from 3 to 3.75, then that's a good episode. And then if it's 2 to 2.75, then it's a bad episode, but an episode I didn't mind watching, if that makes sense. So it's like, I watched it and say, this isn't very good, but I don't mind watching it. But then if it's lower than 2, so 1.75 downward, that's episodes I actively had a hard time getting through.
You
know,
did
I'm just
not like
checking,
this episode.
yeah, I am checking my phone. I'm looking at the runtime, like, oh, when is this going to be over? Like, if I find myself doing that during the episode, like, just like, thinking, when is this going to end? Then that's kind of when I know it's time to give it that low of a score. And, this is all my personal opinion, just my personal reaction to the episodes. I don't mind if people like these episodes. I think it's good if people enjoy watching episodes I didn't enjoy, because I think it's better for there to be more enjoyment in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, but like I said, so when I give this episode a 1.75, that expresses my feelings that when I was watching it, that I kind of just wanted it to be over, and I didn't think that it was really unnecessary. Like I said, you could just skip it. It doesn't really contribute anything, because the whole episode is just him. It's like Vegito saying, "Oh, I'm not using my full power yet," and Buu saying, "Oh, I'm not using my full power yet either." They just keep going back and forth like that, and eventually Vegito transforms, and the episode ends.
I mean, go ahead.
I mean, I don't want to sound like I just automatically give bad scores to something that's on the manga, but it's set up so the manga, it's its own self-contained version of the story. So generally speaking, whenever you come and add something else in, it's usually going to be something that's not particularly necessary. And I think with fights as well, like stretching out fights is often a very tricky thing to do effectively, because the whole point of fights is they're supposed to be exciting.
Yeah.
So it's hard to stretch them out without making them less exciting. With more story type content, you can stretch it out. It's easier to stretch it out. It's easier to build on things and actually improve it. So that's like with the all the filler during the Saiyan arc, all the training filler they do. I mean, some of it's not great, but a lot of it is pretty good, because it helps build out that year of training to make it feel like a solid chunk of time. So with stuff like that, I feel like that kind of situation is one where you can put in filler to actually improve things, whereas with fights, it's an uphill battle to add anything that's going to be too worthwhile.
I mean, I just felt the only criticism. I love the episode because it's just Vegito giving Buu a pummeling, and it's, to me, my opinion, very entertaining. I love the fact that he has to volley that huge ki blast back up to him. Love that stuff. The only criticism that I would have of this episode is that I feel like if they're gonna go with the fact that even base Vegito could raffle stomp this version of Buu with Gohan absorbed, I feel like there was absolutely no need for him to transform. Like, I feel like he could have stayed in his base and just pounded this guy to oblivion, because there's not even a single moment in this episode where you think Vegito's in trouble. And that's the one thing that no matter if it's the manga or the anime, I did a whole video about this, Vegito was not going to lose that fight. Nothing. And all these episodes, right? He turns to a candy. Buu does every move on him. Vegito could not lose to Majin Buu. He purposely dragged on the fight so that he would get absorbed, and then when he went inside of Buu to go and save Goten, Trunks, and Gohan. I just felt like I was just surprised that you rated it that low, because I love that episode. But again, it's, we don't have to agree on everything, but that is interesting that you gave it a low rating. Now, the one thing that does piss me off, now I love Vegito versus Buu because it's such a one-sided pounding, but the one thing that does piss me off is I don't understand why they couldn't just kill Buu and then go to Namek, resurrect everybody with the Namek balls, and defuse. Especially after Super pretty much did that with the Kaioshin and Kibito. Like, I feel like the ending of the Buu arc could have been so much simpler, and it just became more convoluted.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. It's like what is it? Three episodes overall of Vegito versus Buu.
4.
And it's okay, 4. So that's like
to 272.
So that's like, in my opinion, that's too many episodes to give to such a one-sided fight.
Yeah,
I mean, on the whole, I'm not even like every time I watch these episodes, I like it a little bit less. Like the first time I watched it, I thought it was pretty good, and then it's like it keeps lower and lower, and I think it's just the point. It's like it's just 4 episodes of waiting for Buu to finally absorb him.
Yeah,
and there's no question at any point that Vegito has the upper hand. And by the end of it, you kind of are rooting for Buu because he's the one doing all the interesting stuff. And it is, I mean, the thing I like most about the episodes is just all the different strategies Buu comes up with to try and beat Vegito. It's like he goes, like every single thing we've seen him do up till this point, which is a lot of things for
He
Buu.
upgraded the Super Ghost Kamikaze attack to shoot Ki Blast. I thought that was very impressive.
Yeah, so he does all these impressive things, and then it's like Vegito kind of just vetoes them automatically. Like he never gets anywhere, and it's like I guess the problem with Vegito being so strong is that he's kind of boring in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of fans love him because they love the strong guys, you know, and I like Vegito too, but I do agree with you that by the time you get to the last episode, I do agree that I will totally agree with that. By the time you get to episode 272, when he finally got absorbed, it's like, dude, get on with it. Now, one thing that you and I are going to agree on, the inside of Boo stuff, I can't stand it. Like, I didn't like it when I was a kid or when I was a teenager, whatever. I didn't like it when I watched it, you know, a few years later. I didn't like it when I watched it earlier this year. Again, I rewatched the whole thing. It's so boring. It's like you actually rated episode 274 a 1 out of 5, and you said almost literally a waste. Goku and Vegeta fighting like bacteria. This was so bad. Like, this is the definition of like atrocious, boring filler to me.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, again, like in the manga, they immediately find everyone tied up inside Buu. So like all the stuff with the worms and the memories, that's all anime only, and yeah, it's just there to drag things out. But at the very least, it did give us an interesting stage in the video game Boo's Fury.
That's true. Inside of Buu. What'd you think about like Goku and Vegeta fighting like Gotenks and Gohan and whatnot? Now, obviously, it wasn't really them, but I mean, it was one of those things where I feel like it was cool visually, but then when you see the fight, it's like very lackluster.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I assume that's kind of why they did it. It's like, we can have an excuse for Goku to fight Gohan and Vegeta to fight Gotenks, and yeah, it looks. There are some good part. It looks good at some points, but yeah, it's this kind of the fights we get, like the kind of lackluster anime fight choreography where they kind of just hit each other and nothing much happens until suddenly it's all over.
Yeah, I was just, I didn't like it. So, Goku and Vegeta escape. We're now at the final part of the series here, the battle with Kid Buu, or, you know, True Evil Buu, whatever you want to call him. You know, it's all good. A couple things here. So, the biggest video on my channel featuring you is the, you know, which Majin Buu is the strongest video. And we outlined this there in explicit detail, so we don't have to go through it again. But one thing we didn't really talk about is more so your opinion, even though I think I have an idea of what it is. So, quick, brief explanation. In the manga, this is never stated, but in the anime, both Goku and the narrator, and actually even Kaioshin, I think, imply. Yeah, they all imply that Kid Buu, because it's the original form of Buu, is the most powerful version of Buu and is stronger than Buu with Gohan absorbed. That, however, seems to be a bit illogical and is not said in the manga. Do you, as a fan of Dragon Ball, or whatever, you want a historian, do you think that do you like the fact that they changed it for the anime so that the final battle can seem more climactic, or do you think that it's just disrespectful towards Toriyama's vision, or is it somewhere in the middle?
I guess in the middle, because yeah, I don't. Well, I guess we should say again, like not even imply, like they have explicitly say like, oh, he's stronger than all the previous forms, and Goku outlines like every like stat by stat, like, oh, he's got more power, he's faster, he can regenerate better, and yeah, it's like they so all these lines that they add in, they're only in the anime, and in the manga they don't. There's nothing like ever that explicit like that, which is where the whole debate gets complicated. But I mean, the thing is, it's like I don't mind them adding in those lines, but it's like they didn't change it enough. Like, because like the whole argument kind of is that it seems like Goku is all like he doesn't want to fight the Super Buu with Gohan absorbed. He's like, he seems willing to even attempt to fuse with Mr. Satan rather than fight that form of Buu on his own.
Because he's so dangerous, according to Goku.
Yeah, it's like that seems to be the idea. Like it seems during that part of the storyline, when leading up to Vegito, it seems fairly explicit that without fusion, Goku on his own won't be able to beat this guy. But then suddenly you turn around and with Kid Buu, he's like, oh, we should be able to manage something. We don't need fusion. Let's just take turns fighting him. And I mean, there's a lot. Yeah. We don't want to get all in this argument again, but it's like it seems like there's less plot holes if we just assume that the ultimate Gohan Buu is stronger than Kid Buu, and that just means that this final battle is not as climactic. But then you could just see it as like they're not fused into Vegeta anymore, but Boo's not fused with any of the characters he absorbed, so it's sort of like the
honor.
unfused championship kind of thing. Anyway, so there's less plot holes that way, and if we're going only by the manga, and so, but still, I don't really know what Toriyama was thinking. I wouldn't really put it past him to just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna have this short. I always like to have, me speaking as Toriyama for some reason, I always like to have these little guys who look unimpressive be the strongest villains. So I'm just gonna have Buu turn into one of those guys and have him be stronger and have Goku fight him and whatever. That'll be the end of the series. And I don't know. I don't think Toriyama probably cares too much about the internal consistency of all this power scaling stuff. So I don't really know what he's going for. And so because of that, like, I don't necessarily have a problem with the anime adding in these lines to just just to hype up this fight, this big final fight between Goku and Kid Buu. But I feel like if they're going to do that, then they should have changed the other things that make it seem like Super Buu was stronger.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's not just that they change stuff at the end. It's like they leave intact all the other things that from the manga that made it seem like Super Buu was stronger. So even if you're just watching the anime on its own, it's kind of inconsistent. Like why is if Kid Buu's stronger? If Kid Buu's stronger than Super Buu, then why is Goku fighting him without? Why is he even able? Not even honor. Like, why is he even able to fight him at all?
Well, that
was he just?
Yeah, how you're saying, how was he even strong enough to even match up to him? And that's kind of where I'm going with my next point here. Okay, earlier in this conversation, you said that you're not going to lower an episode's rating because it wasn't in the manga. And proof is in the pudding right here with 279. SS2 Goku versus Buu. Now, this is the most conflicting episode in history. Because look, real talk. This is one of the most amazingly animated, beautiful, kick-ass fights in the entire series. SS2 Goku, and yet it's so unrealistic that Goku in his previous form could do this well against Buu, unless, of course, Buu was toying with him. I mean, that's obviously the headcanon. It just seems like at this point that Kid Buu, or whatever version of Buu, would mop the floor with SS2 Goku like Fat Buu did with Vegeta. And it's such a conflicting episode because it looks so good. It's such a badass episode. The animation's beautiful. The music is great. It's just such a great episode. But yeah, and I hate to say it, but the power scaling is like ridiculously bad here. And I'm not a power scaler, but you get my point. You gave this episode 4.5 out of 5. Is that purely because of how awesome the fight was?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Like, if the base Vegito episode had looked like this, then I would have given it the same score, I'd say. And as I was saying, it's like an uphill battle. It's hard to expand fights, to add filler into fights and make it good, but it's not impossible, and this episode shows that it can be done.
Except that that doesn't make any sense because, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, Buu should be able to have destroyed SS2 Goku. This ruthless Buu should have been able to do it with like 2 hits. And Goku's hanging in there with SS2 Goku. Now, actually, I want to go back a little bit. The episode, okay, the Earth blows up, everyone dies, a lot of fans are pissed. That episode earlier that you said it was a waste of time, that 274, I think the episode where Buu goes to Kai's planet and meets like Paikuhan and Krillin, I think that whole episode was a waste. I think it was one of those. I feel like Toei was like, "Hey, remember Paikuhan from the end of the last arc? Yeah, here he is. In case you forgot, and he lost. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it."
Yeah, I don't think that was a great episode either. Although I guess I like it better than the Vegito thing because I'm a sucker for that, seeing those characters again, even if there's no actual point.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. And then you see, like, what about this one, Herms? And I'm sure you've heard this before. Yamcha defeats Olibu, and yet Olibu is implied to be almost as strong as, like, Goku in the Cell Saga. So Yamcha beating Olibu means that he surpassed Cell Saga Goku? Like, no wonder these power scaling guys always have a headache.
Yeah, I mean, you could just say like, oh, he just knocks him over a bit. Is like, he's not necessarily as strong, but yeah, it does seem like the anime staff they're like, oh, let's have Yamcha fight two characters from the Afterlife tournament. Like, oh, which two characters? Just any two, doesn't matter.
It's annoying. Like, the thing about me is I've never been a big power scaling guy, as far as like I don't let it bother me, but this actually did bother me. Like, that and SS2 Goku against Buu did bother me. Now, when the fight moves forward and it becomes SS3 versus Buu, you gave it 4.75 out of 5, very high rating. And you actually gave really good ratings to most of this fight. You know, the Vegeta stuff where he finally has his character arc where he says, you know, Goku, you're number one, and the fight, and then Fat Buu, pretty good ratings here, I would say. So needless to say, you think this is a good finale for the series, or at least final fight, so to speak.
Yeah, I really liked that whole section, all those Kid Buu episodes, and it is the problem where I was kind of mentioning it earlier with the Gotenks fight, where it's like if you take them on their own, they're really great in my opinion, but it's like it is kind of weird how they relate to the arc as a whole, because there's a kind of just the structure is weird. It's weird that we end up with this as the final battle, Goku and Vegeta, after all that's set up with Gotenks and Gohan, and then Vegito. It's like, suddenly we get left with the two characters we started out with at the beginning, without any power-ups at all. I mean, except for SS3, but whatever. I mean, it's like, I don't know.
I think it's good storytelling in a way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it seems like Toriyama is trying to do what you like, trying to do the unexpected, because you would have expected it to end with any of those new powered-up characters we saw along the way, but instead they choose not to do Vegito because that would be boring to just see Vegito curb stomp Buu in one episode. So, I mean, it's a little contrived. It's contrived, but I still like it. And the finale with the Spirit Bomb, the Genki Dama, and Mr. Satan rallying everyone to donate energy.
He saved the world, Herms. Yeah. After all this time, he wound up actually saving the world. I love that. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's a much more interesting ending than I think we would have gotten with Gotenks or Gohan or any of those people, even if those probably would have been more logical endpoints.
It's a much more emotional ending, I think, because not just that. You see the cameos. You have Devilman and people from Dragon Ball appearing. You have 17, the Park Ranger, appearing, and now that whole scene's been twisted up now with Super, bro. Now that scene has new meaning. Now, it wasn't like he just put his hands up and heard Goku's voice. Now he actually met Goku, so that he met him after that, but I think it has more meaning because he acknowledged it in Super. He acknowledged, oh, I remember this. There's that, and then there's Launch coming out of the bus, which was not in the manga. But I'm okay with them putting in the anime. And then, Mr. Satan winning, and then even the Namekians had to get involved. I liked it. Yes, indeed, I did like it. So that's going to be the end of this edition. Next time, we're going to cover the final few episodes of Dragon Ball Z, as well as the final movies, and give our thoughts looking back on the greatness that was Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, wrapping up the podcast series when it comes to the DBZ portion. So look forward to that very soon on Geekdom 101. Thank you as always for your continued support, and thank you for supporting Herms. We'll see you guys next time.